July 4th, the day that Americans celebrate the signing of the Declaration of Independence and its freedom from Great Britain. It is a day of celebration and fun. But the United States of America's birthday can sometimes be simply terrifying. Join me as I tell you 3 true tales of terror that happened on America's birthday. Number 1. The light of the fireworks. When I was younger, there was nothing I loved more than going with my parents to Mount Trashmore in Virginia to watch the fireworks. It sounds weird, I know, but Mount Trashmore is a real place. It was a hill built over a former landfill, and it had a large park on it. Every year they would put on a fireworks show while families would picnic out on the hill and watch the hours-long show. But that is beside the point. This happened to me years afterwards. I guess the reason I included the first part is that, as a single female adult, I really grew out of enjoying the fireworks celebration. It became tedious. It became annoying. It became loud. It became simply something that I stopped enjoying and actually began hating. When I was 25, I moved into a really nice apartment. I had just gotten a great job working in an actuary. Although we were given the 4th of July off as a vacation day, we were not given the day after off, and I had to go to work. It was my first year in that apartment, so I had no idea that the people who lived in the area set off fireworks every 4th of July in the parking lot. And my bedroom window just happened to be facing the parking lot. Before I knew any of this, I had planned on going to sleep early. I had to be up at 5 a.m. and get ready to go to work. But even before I decided to go to bed, the fireworks in the parking lot were starting. They started with some simple things like firecrackers and sidewalk poppers, so it wasn't so bad at first. It was relatively light outside until close to 9 p.m., so they didn't start the rockets until close to around that time. The firecrackers and the other things didn't bother me so much. I could sleep through a nuclear war as long as it was just sound. But it's really difficult for me to sleep unless it is pitch black in my room. I had been in my bed since around 9 p.m., and I wasn't quite worried about getting to sleep until it happened. The bright light of one of the exploding rockets illuminated my room in many different colors. Even with my eyes shut, I could see it. That was annoying, and I groaned. I was hoping it wouldn't continue for too long before they ran out of rockets. This wasn't the city letting off fireworks. It was a bunch of tenants at an apartment building. They couldn't have hundreds of rockets. At first I thought I could simply ignore it, so I tried to. But every time one of them exploded, it illuminated my room in a variety of colors. I probably laid in bed for close to a half an hour before I finally realized I wasn't going to be able to get to sleep. I kept rolling around, tossing and turning constantly while the fireworks were exploding. Again, after doing this for a half an hour, I gave up, and I rolled over on my back and sighed. I decided to just make the best of it, open my eyes, and watch the fireworks. I opened my eyes and laid on my back. A couple minutes passed before they lit another rocket. It exploded and illuminated the parking lot in my bedroom, and my heart jumped in my chest when it happened. I only saw it for the split second that the rocket had gone off, but there was the figure of a person crouched under my bedroom desk and looking right at me. And he saw in that split second that I was looking right at him too. I screamed and moved to jump out of the bed. He quickly pushed the chair out from under the desk and tried to get out from under the desk. Fortunately for me, because he had moved the chair in front of him, I had more time to get away and get into the kitchen. I grabbed a fucking huge butcher knife from out of the block and moved around to confront the intruder. But he didn't come into the kitchen. I didn't have a landline phone and my mobile phone was in my bedroom, so I couldn't call the police. I had to make my way slowly out of the kitchen, keeping my back to the wall. I was a complete nervous wreck doing this as I inched along the wall and made my way to the door and out of the apartment. Fortunately, the guy never showed up and I was able to get out of my apartment, run to the neighbors, and pound on the door. The police came and searched my apartment. It was fruitless, and I knew it would be. The man must have known I would run and get a weapon. He opened the sliding glass door of my bedroom balcony, and he must have climbed down the building or jumped. I was only on the second floor, so that would have been easy. It was pretty clear to me what the man wanted. He was waiting for me to go to sleep before he was going to attack me, rob me, or both. But I had been tossing and turning so much that he knew I wasn't asleep. It was only thanks to those fireworks that I was ever able to know he was there. Number 2. The sound of the fireworks. Other than sparklers, those growing snake things, and other really minor fireworks, most fireworks in my state are illegal to sell or use. But that doesn't stop people from using them. They'll drive over the state border to Indiana, pick up fireworks, and drive on back. And you can't say anything about it if you don't like hearing or seeing them. If you tell people to stop celebrating America's birthday, you become unpatriotic. It's not true, of course. And you really cannot count on the cops to do anything about it either. They might go and say something, but it's generally more along the lines of, make sure to not be setting them off all night. Rather than telling them what they should be telling them, those are illegal. Set them off again, and you'll be arrested. So it just becomes an exercise in futility. I'm a bit older, and I like my peace and quiet. I've never enjoyed anything about fireworks, and if that makes me an old grouch, I'm fine with that. But for the most part, I try to put up with it as much as possible. This happened a while ago, but it happened on the 4th of July. I was living in a house in an older subdivision. There were a lot of old houses there, but none of them were built to look alike, as they so often are nowadays. I lived alone. I'm a lifelong bachelor, and I like my space. I was driving home on the 4th of July. I'd gone to the store to buy myself some sherry. I was going to have a nice few drinks and then read a book. I also bought myself some foam earplugs so I wouldn't have to listen to the fireworks that I knew would be going off all night. They started early, so I went ahead and put my earplugs in. They unfortunately didn't do as good as I had hoped they would. I was still hearing quite a bit of noise. I figured I could ignore it though. Fortunately, I wasn't able to see any of the annoying lightning that came from the fireworks. It was just a whole bunch of exploding noises, and they were coming from all over the neighborhood. It was hard to read. Many times I considered just giving in and going to call the police. The major thing that kept me from doing it, however, was that I really didn't think they would do anything about it. So I just tried to find a way to drown the noise out. I tried pushing the earplugs deeper into my ears. I tried playing some classical music, classical being the only music that I could listen to and read at the same time. I tried putting the TV on in the background, but that was a rather stupid idea. I tried going into my bedroom and shutting the doors and reading on my bed. It was annoying. The last straw in my refusal to call the police happened when, although it was muffled, I heard fireworks going off from the house next to me, and they were very loud. My immediate neighbors had just joined in on the act, so quite pissed off, I got up and called the police. They told me they would check it out and tell my neighbors to be quiet. They also told me that it might be a while before they could get out there because they had been getting a lot of calls. I didn't figure it would take very long though because I doubted they were arresting anyone. I sat there for about an hour before there was a knocking on my door. I tried ignoring it for the most part. I figured that the police had gone over and talked to my neighbors, and they were now annoyed and wanted to confront me. Leave it to the police to tell the people who had called on them. I realized that I couldn't ignore it anymore when I faintly heard a voice that actually indicated that it was the police who were at my door. A bit worried, I got up and took my plugs out of my ear. Rushing to the door and opening it, there were 2 uniformed officers who asked me to come outside. As I did, I noticed 4 more police cars at my neighbor's house. I heard an ambulance siren off in the distance. I was confused, but I simply figured that one of my neighbors had an accident with some of their fireworks. The police had me step outside, and they asked me a lot of questions about when I had heard the noises from next door. I didn't begin to get an idea of what happened until the ambulance arrived and took out 2 gurneys. That's when the police explained it to me. What I had heard, it wasn't fireworks. Although there were a lot of fireworks going off in my neighborhood, my next-door neighbors hadn't set any off. What I had heard were several gun blasts as a then unknown assailant shot and killed the couple who lived next door to me. He shot them both several times, and I had heard the gunshots and reported it to the police as fireworks. He was gone long before the police got there, because I reported it as nothing more than a firework violation. I often wonder if it was my fault that I didn't know it was gunshots, if I hadn't had those earplugs in my ears, and if I hadn't been just expecting every noise to be fireworks. Maybe I could have reported it for what it was, and just maybe the police could have gotten there in time. Number 3. The pain of the fireworks. The worst thing that ever happened to me happened when I was about 14 years old. I didn't think I was nerdy or weird or anything like that, but there was this kid named Cedric who used to pick on me all the time. He was such a jerk. He would always call me names, hit me in the back of the head when we were walking in the hallway at school. He'd torment me on the way home. I had no idea why he did it. I never in my life had problems with any other bullies. But for some reason, this guy really didn't like me and enjoyed tormenting me. I thought I would have a reprieve from him on the 4th of July because it was a day off school. I never really saw him in my neighborhood. I just figured he lived somewhere else. But on the 4th that year, I was out during the day just taking a walk and listening to some music on my iPod. As I was walking down the street, my heart sank as I saw that Cedric was walking towards me in the opposite direction. Although I wanted to quickly dart behind a house or something, I didn't have the chance to. He saw me, and he gave chase really fast. Cedric had a lot of ground to make up, so I thought that I had an actual chance to get away from him. I cut through one of the large parks in my area, chagrined to not see anyone else in it. He was gaining on me, and I thought I would try to outsmart him. The park had these play areas that were made of logs, and they had slides, monkey bars, and all sorts of other playground equipment attached to them. There was also a fireman's pole. I figured once I was up there, He would have to decide what was the best way for himself to get up there and come and get me. And then I could run down and get away from him. I quickly ran up the slide, something I was pretty good at doing. Looking around, I noticed the fireman's pole on the other side. After almost no hesitation, Cedric came up the slide and came right for me. He didn't give me the few moments I needed to get over to and down the pole. By the time I had made it to the pole, he grabbed me, threw me at the pole. I hit my head on it and fell to the ground. He slid down and pinned my agonized body on the ground. I began struggling, doing everything I could to get this jerk off me. It didn't work, though. He was too big and too strong. He straddled my body and was holding my arms down with his legs. I was scared, but I got more scared when he took some firecrackers out of his pocket. He told me he always wanted to see what would happen if a firecracker exploded on someone's body. I began screaming at him, and he told me if I opened my mouth again, he would stick one in my mouth and close it. Cedric took a firecracker and put it on my left hand. I left my palm flat and braced myself for the inevitable pain. I couldn't have imagined how agonizing it would be when the cracker went off. I began bawling my eyes out, but did my best to not open my mouth. I figured a cracker in my mouth would kill me. He then put one on my other hand and repeated the process. I was crying so hard at this point. I still tried to push him off me, but I wasn't able. It was then that Cedric changed positions. He was still straddling me, but instead of straddling my torso and facing my head, he was straddling my chest and facing my lower body. I didn't know why until I felt him begin to unbutton and unzip my pants. He grabbed my underwear and pulled the front of it down. Exposed, I felt him set a firecracker right on my balls. If there is anything in the world that's going to give a guy a rush of adrenaline, it's knowing that his balls are about to get destroyed. I began screaming and bucking, and I guess that Cedric hadn't expected that, and I actually knocked him off of me. A smart person would have pulled up his skivvies and ran, right? Not me. I jumped on top of Cedric, and I began wailing on him. If you have ever seen A Christmas Story, where Ralphie goes psychotic and begins beating the hell out of the bully with the yellow eyes, that was what I began doing. I began pounding that fucker for all I was worth. Even though my hands were majorly fucked up, it didn't matter. I didn't feel any of the pain at that point. This guy was trying to castrate me with a firecracker, and I wasn't gonna have it. Finally, I calmed down a little and stood up. A completely shocked Cedric was covering his eyes, and he was actually crying. I felt a rush of power, and then I hauled off and kicked him right in the balls like I was kicking a kickball. His hands grabbed his package to prevent another kick, which was probably a good thing because I would have done it. I went out of the park and found someone to call an ambulance for me. My hands were a complete and bloody mess. I had tucked myself back into my underwear, but you could tell I'd gotten the crap beaten out of me. Fortunately, my hands were only hurt mildly because it was just one cracker per hand, and my hands were not closed. But if he had gotten that third one, I'm pretty positive I would have been a virgin for life. And that would have been a terrifying 4th of July story. Hey all, Killer Orange Cat here. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please hit the button next to the big orange tabby to be informed of new content. Feel free to follow Ichigo and myself on Facebook and Twitter. So, the 4th of July and fireworks. I can't say I have ever personally had a terrifying story that has happened on this holiday. I hope all of you will not have one of them this year as well. Just enjoy the stories and go find some more because I'm sure my fellow narrators will be giving some more 4th of July stories. Oh, and by the way, has anyone noticed that people submit a lot of stories to me about guys getting their junk attacked? If I keep reading these stories, I may get a really bad reputation here. I'm just teasing though. If you have a really scary story that has somebody getting their balls attacked, and I think it's a good story, I'll keep reading it. If I get a reputation, oh well, I guess it's better than not having a reputation. I am also giving a shout out and request to a friend and subscriber, and if I pronounce his name incorrectly, he has no right to get mad at me since I'm doing him a favor. Just teasing. But Robert Nyan has a GoFundMe account started due to having his teeth very damaged. He's in pain quite a bit and wants to have the painful teeth removed and replaced with dentures. He is a student and only works part-time, so he doesn't have the money to do this. If you're able to help him out, go to his GoFundMe account at the link here or in the information below. Robert is an artist as well, and if you email him after a donation, he will produce a piece of art for you. If you're from the United States of America, I hope you have a great 4th of July. If you're not from the United States, still have a great 4th of July, even if it's just a day, not a holiday. But if you take anything from these stories, please take this. This 4th of July, make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a killer orange cat might be hiding. Good night.